120 million years ago, the world was warmer, louder, and far more dangerous than anything humanity has ever known. There were no cities, no roads, no borders, only continents still drifting apart, oceans invading the land, and ecosystems locked in constant, merciless competition. Survival was not a matter of intelligence or morality. It was written in claws, teeth, speed, endurance, and broken bones left bleaching beneath alien suns. This was the Early Cretaceous period. The planet itself was restless. Sea levels were rising as polar ice all but vanished. Shallow seas flooded vast continental interiors, creating coastlines that shifted over generations. Forests stretched farther toward the poles than ever before, dominated by towering conifers, cycads, and ferns. Flowering plants, still newcomers, were beginning a silent revolution, altering food webs from the ground up. Insects diversified alongside them, setting off evolutionary arms races that would reshape life on land. Across these landscapes, survival was never guaranteed. Every sunrise revealed new dangers. Every sunset marked another narrow escape, or another extinction. In what is now northeastern China, volcanic ash occasionally drifted from distant eruptions, settling over lakes and forests. These sudden catastrophes preserved entire ecosystems in frozen moments of time. Feathered dinosaurs stalked the undergrowth. Primitive birds flitted between branches. Small mammals hid in shadows, waiting for night to fall. Above all of them loomed predators whose existence defined fear. Among the most efficient hunters of this era were dromaeosaurids, small to medium-sized theropods armed with curved sickle claws on their hind feet. These claws were not merely weapons. They were tools of control, designed to grip, pin, and disembowel prey that struggled beneath them. Fossilized bite marks on bones reveal that attacks were often frantic and violent, with prey fighting desperately until blood loss or shock ended the struggle. But predators were not the only masters of violence. Herbivores, too, lived by brutality. Survival demanded armor, spikes, speed, or sheer size. The margins between predator and prey were razor thin, and mistakes were paid for in flesh. In the forests and floodplains of what is now North Africa, massive theropods like Spinosaurus ruled river systems. Unlike traditional land predators, this giant specialized in aquatic prey. Its elongated jaws were lined with conical teeth perfect for gripping slippery fish. Isotopic evidence from fossil bones confirms a semi-dash aquatic lifestyle, one of the most radical evolutionary experiments among dinosaurs. But Spinosaurus did not hunt alone in this world. Sharing the same territory were other apex predators, Carcharodontosaurus, a blade-toothed giant capable of delivering catastrophic bites, and Deltadromeus, built for speed and endurance. These predators did not form alliances. They competed. When their territories overlapped, encounters could turn fatal, even between giants. Broken bones found in large theropod fossils tell stories of violent confrontations. Healed fractures suggest survivors of battles that nearly ended them. Unhealed wounds hint at deaths that came swiftly and without mercy. Yet even apex predators lived in fear. In the early Cretaceous, ecosystems were densely packed. Competition was constant. Juvenile predators faced a particularly grim reality. Smaller, weaker, and less experienced, they were prey to larger carnivores, including members of their own species. Cannibalism was not a moral failing. It was an evolutionary strategy. Eggs were no safer. Nests were raided by mammals, reptiles, and other dinosaurs. Fossilized nesting grounds show signs of repeated destruction, forcing some species to evolve guarded colonies, while others relied on sheer numbers to overwhelm loss. Most hatchlings never reached adulthood. Their bones, fragile and light, were crushed underfoot or consumed before they could leave a mark in the fossil record. In the skies, danger took a different form. Pterosaurs dominated aerial ecosystems, some with wingspans rivaling modern fighter jets. Smaller species hunted insects and fish, while larger ones scavenged carcasses or preyed upon smaller vertebrates. Launching into flight required enormous energy. Fossil trackways show powerful forelimbs adapted for vaulting into the air, a moment of vulnerability when predators could strike. On land, newly evolving birds faced similar threats. Feathers offered insulation and limited flight, but escape was not guaranteed. Many early birds still had teeth, claws, and long bony tails, a reminder that flight did not immediately free them from the brutality of the ground. Beneath the forest floor, mammals remained small and largely nocturnal. They survived not by strength, but by secrecy. Sharp teeth and rapid reproduction allowed them to exploit niches dinosaurs ignored. Fossilized jaws reveal adaptations for crushing insects, seeds, and even small vertebrates. Their lives were short, violent, and rarely peaceful. Every ecosystem balanced on constant motion. Flood swept away entire communities. Droughts turned lush plains into killing fields where predators followed starving herds. Wildfires, ignited by lightning in oxygen-rich air, reshaped landscapes in days. Ash layers found in sedimentary rock preserve charred plant remains alongside animal bones, evidence of sudden devastation. And yet, life persisted. Adaptation was relentless. Species that failed to change disappeared, leaving only scattered fossils as testimony to their existence. Others evolved rapidly, longer legs, stronger jaws, thicker armor, sharper senses. Evolution did not favor kindness or intelligence. It favored survival. In what is now Europe, island ecosystems created evolutionary experiments unlike anywhere else on Earth. Dinosaurs isolated on islands evolved into dwarf forms or developed exaggerated features. Limited resources forced brutal competition. Fossil evidence suggests increased aggression, faster growth rates, and earlier maturity, all strategies to survive in confined, hostile environments. Everywhere, death shaped life. Scavengers played a critical role. Crocodiliforms lurked in rivers and swamps, ambushing prey at the water's edge. Their bite forces were immense, capable of crushing bone. Fossilized coprolites, fossil feces, contain fragments of bone, confirming that nothing went to waste. Insects swarmed carcasses within minutes. Beetles bored into flesh. Flies laid eggs that hatched into larvae, stripping bones clean. Microorganisms completed the process, returning nutrients to the soil. From death came life, over and over again. This was not a world of balance in the human sense. It was a world of pressure. Even the largest animals lived with constant stress. Bone histology, the microscopic study of bone tissue, reveals growth interruptions caused by famine, disease, or injury. Stress lines mark years when survival was nearly impossible. These records, locked inside fossilized bones, are silent diaries of suffering and resilience. 120 million years ago, no creature knew peace. Only survival. And survival was never permanent. As the early Cretaceous marched forward, survival became even more unforgiving. Ecosystems that once appeared stable began to fracture under pressures both visible and invisible. Climate fluctuations intensified. Volcanic activity increased in several regions, pumping ash and gases into the atmosphere. Oceans warmed and lost oxygen in vast regions, creating marine dead zones where life suffocated in silence. What lived on land could not escape the consequences of what happened at sea. Rivers slowed, then vanished. Floodplains cracked under prolonged drought. Herbivores were the first to suffer. Fossil assemblages show abrupt declines in certain plant-eating species, not from predation, but from starvation. Tooth. Where patterns reveal desperate feeding behaviors, bark stripped from trees, roots torn from soil, plants consumed that once would have been ignored due to toxicity or low nutritional value. Predators followed the collapse closely behind. When herbivore populations fell, carnivores turned on one another with increasing frequency. Bite marks on theropod skulls, neck vertebrae, and limbs show combat that was not ritualized, but lethal. These were not displays of dominance. They were attempts to remove competitors permanently. In some cases, attackers died as well, infected wounds, shattered bones, or internal bleeding ending the victor's life days later. The fossil record captures these failures without mercy. In Patagonia, large theropods show evidence of stress fractures and asymmetrical limb growth. Signs of animals compensating for old injuries. Survival often meant living with permanent damage. A broken claw or weakened jaw could mean starvation. Evolution did not care how long an individual lived, only whether it reproduced before dying. Reproduction itself was a gamble. Eggshell fragments discovered in nesting grounds show extreme thinning during certain intervals, likely caused by environmental stress or dietary deficiencies. Embryos died before hatching. Parents returned season after season to nesting sites that no longer guaranteed success, driven by instincts shaped in a world that had already changed. Some species adapted by abandoning parental care entirely. Others evolved communal nesting, flooding predators with more eggs than could be eaten. Neither strategy guaranteed survival. On the margins of these collapsing systems, strange forms emerged. Some herbivores evolved extreme defenses, massive spikes, bony clubs, and armored plates fused into living shields. These structures were costly to grow and maintain, but they reduced the chances of instant death. Fossilized injuries on ankylosaurs show crushed ribs and shattered armor plates, evidence of attacks survived by mere centimeters. Speed became another solution. Lightweight, long-legged dinosaurs evolved to outrun death rather than confront it. Trackways preserved in ancient mudflats reveal sprinting speeds rivaling modern birds. But speed required energy, and energy required food. When resources vanished, these animals collapsed just as quickly as the armored giants. In the shadows, mammals endured. Still small, still hunted relentlessly, they diversified quietly. Some climbed trees. Others burrowed deeper underground. A few experimented with gliding membranes, escaping predators by launching into darkness. Their fossils are rare, fragile, and often overlooked, but their survival would eventually change the world. Above them all, the skies grew more crowded. Pterosaurs diversified into dozens of forms. From needle-toothed fishes to blunt-beaked crushers of shellfish. Competition intensified. Wing injuries found in fossils suggest mid-air collisions, failed launches, and violent landings. Flight was freedom, but it was also risk. One miscalculation meant broken bones and certain death. Early birds faced a harsher truth: flight alone was not enough. Predatory dinosaurs learned to hunt upward. Leaping, climbing, ambushing nests in trees. Fossilized feathers found alongside bite-mark bones confirmed that birds were common prey. Survival demanded vigilance even while airborne. And still, the planet changed. Carbon dioxide levels fluctuated wildly. Oxygen concentrations influenced fire frequency. Entire forests burned, regrew, then burned again. Charcoal layers in sedimentary rock form. Repeating patterns, cycles of destruction and rebirth that reshaped landscapes faster than many species could adapt. Disease spread unseen. Bone pathologies reveal infections, tumors, and parasites. Some dinosaurs lived for years with abscesses in their jaws or lesions in their limbs, feeding while slowly dying. Others succumbed quickly, their bodies scavenged before burial could preserve them. Nothing was wasted. Death fed everything. Carcasses became battlefields. Predators fought over remains. Scavengers waited for their chance. Crocodiliforms dragged bodies into water, dismembering them with rotational death rolls. Fossilized drag marks and scattered. Bones tell stories of these final moments. Even after flesh vanished, bones endured stress. Trampled, cracked, scattered by floods. Only a fraction survived long enough to fossilize. The fossil record we see today is not a complete story. It is what survived. Destruction, erosion, time, and chance. By the late stages of the early Cretaceous, extinction was no longer rare. Lineages vanished quietly. No global catastrophe marked their end. No sudden darkness fell. Instead, populations dwindled, ranges shrank, and reproduction failed. Evolution moved on without them. Those that survived did so by becoming something new. Feathers grew denser. Jaws became more specialized. Senses sharpened. Brains reorganized. Life responded not with mercy, but with innovation born from suffering. 1 inch. 120 million years ago, Earth was not preparing for humanity. It was refining survival itself. Every claw was sharpened by failure. Every bone carried the memory of violence. Every success was temporary. This was a world where dominance lasted only until the next drought, the next fire, the next evolutionary mistake. A world where life endured not because it was strong, but because it changed. And in that relentless struggle, the foundations of the modern world were laid. The birds in the sky. The mammals in the shadows. The ecosystems that would one day belong to us. All forged in a time when survival was written in claws and broken bones.